tuning in, tryna find out how to win. Go along and tell a friend, marathon, you know the game. Keep on running, never end, getting better, make amend. Adam got it, Adam got it, Adam got it, Adam got it. Parrsitivity, 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 parrsitivity. Tune in.
Tanya, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast today. How you doing?
Hi, Adam. Lovely. Thanks for having me on your podcast all the way from sunny Las Vegas. It's a scorcher today. It's going to probably go up to at least 45 degrees.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just gone 36.
It sounds like you're in the desert.
Well, it is the desert,
Yeah.
but it's a different desert from where I've come from in Australia, where the outback, we call it, the outback has definitely more red sand, but the same heat intensity, dryness, and it's the same here in Vegas.
Yeah, because I've seen articles of the heat over there, and it gets pretty hot. I've never been to Vegas, but I'd love to see what it's like. But I imagine it gets pretty hot. And also I was going to say, because your twin sister Tamara connected us both together.
She did, Adam.
She's a really great person. We've done a few podcasts, and I'm really grateful to connect with you. And what I'll just start off with is what you do, how you got into it, and talking about mindset kind of things. What is it you do, and how do you kind of get into that path?
Well, I often say that when you're going through adversity, instead of making it wrong, make it really right, because it could be leading you to the divine plan of your life, your deafness of purpose that you are meant to be doing. And that's exactly what happened for me, where I used to work for Qantas Airways out of Australia for over 21 years. And I moved to America because of love in 2015. And I so wanted to stop being an employee of a company and rather be a business owner, an entrepreneur. And so I came to America, and I'll be honest with your audience and you, I really wanted the American dream, because over here in America, free enterprise is alive and well, but it's not just America. I'm discovering the world is opening out, really, where people are discovering that they really can be, do, and have anything when they learn how to master their mind, how to use their mind effectively. And so that's what I want to talk about today. But what happened was, out of my mess came my mission. And I came here, my first business was all about helping companies increase their client experience, start delivering more of an exceptional client experience and really valuing the customer. Well, unfortunately, that all fell apart within 4 years, even though I wrote a book, The Art of Selling to a Woman, and I so wanted to make an impact. But if it's okay with you, I believe a power greater than myself, who I'm going to say call God, your listeners may call it spirit, universe, had other things in mind for me. And so I lost everything, including the marriage, and ended up in a woman's home, a stranger who took me in. And I was very much burnt out, broken, and nearly broke. And I couldn't figure out how I'd ended up there when I'd come to America with the right intentions to be of service to others. And out of the blue, during that month, when I lay in that fetal position, crying and going, I don't understand, God, and maybe your listeners are there right now. What's happened? I don't know how I got here. And then out of the blue, this wonderful, I believe, angel appeared out of nowhere. And it was through a Facebook ad. And it was my mentor, Mr. Bob Proctor. Now, in case your audience don't know who Mr. Bob Proctor is, he was in The Secret. He's the guy in the tan suit. And he came along, and I'll never forget what he said. The results you are getting right now, are a reflection of what's really going on inside of you, inside your subconscious mind. You are being controlled by a paradigm. And a paradigm is a mental program. It's your belief system. It's your conditioning. And it has exclusive control over your behavior, over your results, everything. You think you're thinking, but you're not. 96 to 98% of all of your results, your activities, the way you think, feel, and see yourself, it's all coming from a program that's been put inside of you genetically and environmentally. So when he said this, I was so relieved to hear the news that actually there was nothing wrong with me. It was the program of less than, of not having the right self-image, of having the self-image no longer of an employee of a company, but I should have created a self-image of that of a business owner. And I didn't know any of this, but he finally made sense. And that's when I fell in love with his teachings, and I signed up to be a consultant for his company. And he really taught me how to shift my paradigm. And so I made it after this my mission to go out and help people, business owners in particular right now, because I too was a business owner and I was stuck and I was burnt out and I couldn't figure out how to grow a booming business. But he helped me to renew my mind by showing me exactly how to reprogram my mind for a booming business with more money and more impact with just an evidence-based formula. Really, success isn't a secret. It's just a mindset system, 95% mindset and only 5% strategy. But we've all been conditioned, nope, you got to go and do all the time, and then you will have the results. But I've discovered, go within, get the program right within the subconscious mind. We're all engineered for success. We literally are. And when you get the right program in the subconscious mind, you think you're acting, you're not. Your subconscious mind is compels you to act. And not only does it do all the heavy lifting, it starts to bring opportunities to you everywhere. And that's what happened. I was like, wow, all I did was get very clear with what I want, Adam, a definiteness of purpose. And that was to help people really reset their minds to get very clear. I gave myself a new income because we've all been programmed to only earn a certain amount. But you can reprogram your mind, your subconscious mind, with a new income. In fact, you must. Otherwise, you will never break your current income ceiling. And I changed the way I think, feel, and see myself. I started to create a new concept of myself as a very successful business owner. And I used my imagination, auto-suggestion, and I constantly use time-space repetition to constantly reevaluate myself. And so, of course, everything started to shift on the outside. And I realized, oh my God, we are all sitting on a gold mine, called our subconscious mind that's dying to serve us. We just haven't given it a GPS, a destination. And of course, most people are drifters. When they could be leaders of their life, when they give their mind the right information, but consistently feed it that. Only focus on what you want, which can be hard because we live in a world where we're constantly living through our five senses. Did you hear this? Did you see that? Oh, it's terrible. And so the hardest work in the world is constantly to focus on what I really want and stay there. Stay there as often as I can all day long. And so that is what happened out of this mess. So I, first of all, Adam, would love to say to your audience, don't make your mess wrong. Make it really right. God has big plans for you. And if you turn it around. This could be really leading you to the bakery. It's a breadcrumb, and it's leading you to your bakery that contains your dreams, your visions, your goals, everything you would love in your life. What about you, Adam? Have you had a similar thing?
I No, I really love your story, and I think, you've done really well to, work through, the incident that happened, and, you've turned it around and, made, what happened, work for you, and, change your life and things like that. And also, I think what happened to me, I think, was probably during COVID, really. I think when we had, like, the lockdown and
Mhm.
everything kind of stopped, I was previously working for, restaurants and hotels and hospitality, and, I worked in clothes shops. But I had, qualification in coaching, and I'd done coaching in the past,
Right.
but not, for a company or being paid for it. So during that time period, I kind of, started my podcast during COVID and started networking with people and sharing people's stories and getting into that. And then it made me think about, well, people have changed their life around and made changes. Why not, branch into, coaching? So I then found, work for a company, as a health and wellbeing coach, and that's what I do now. So I think that time period made me, think about what I want to do. And, I'm working for a company now, but I think, at some stage I would like to work for myself, and I would like
Mhm.
to, have my own business. Um, and that's something that, I think about, and that's something that, I want to do in my life, transition into.
I do believe that we're always being prepared for our next career. So where you are right now, Adam, I love how you are not just making peace with it, but you are very grateful for it, from what I can hear. And you know that it really is leading for you to step into your own business. And what I've discovered is the more we can understand ourselves, the more we can understand people. And most people are dying to be heard, seen, and valued because they can't do it for themselves because of the mental junk that's been programmed inside of us. And most of it is just opinions from other people, from other people, and from other people. And these opinions, when you think about them with repetition, they really are just thoughts, but they become beliefs. And then we think this is as good as it gets. But if you go back and reevaluate, which you did, Adam, during COVID, you reevaluate yourself and your beliefs. And if you do that, you will change your perspective and you will suddenly see an opening that wasn't there before because you visited the past with different lens of glasses. And when you do that, you'll be surprised how you will come up with an inspired idea. I often say that God is always talking to us. If you don't like the word God, that's okay. Many people have beliefs around all of that have been put inside of us. But, just trust that the universe is conspiring in your favor and that all of life really does want to help you live an extraordinary life. It's the mental junk that gets in the way.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think, like, yeah, it was a period for me to reflect on things and to think about, my worth and, what I wanted to do. And, I love working in hotels and hospitality. And I think I learned a lot, to work with people under pressure, to communicate, listen, and all of those people skills. But yeah, I kind of thought, what is my passion and what do I want to do? And like you said, I think it's that mental junk that people have. And as you said, people's thoughts become things and, beliefs. And, when in your work and what you do, like what do you think it's like a good first step to help people, in your work, and like a first step with changing, someone getting their mindset changed?
Well, I feel the first thing is we've got to come up with a goal, a definiteness of purpose. Because even in Napoleon Hill's book, and I study Napoleon Hill every day, we've got to come up with what we would love. And I feel that most people are living their lives through other people and their vision and what they want for, instead of going after what you want. And the only reason why we procrastinate is for a number of reasons. We want to know the entire how, like give me the whole plan and then I'll get going. It could be we want to know the what, like what's the next indicated step? Tell me. We often are caught up in spending instead of investing, but spending our time, money, and thoughts on very unimportant things. And fourth, I believe we procrastinate in getting going on what we would love to be doing is because of our concept of ourselves, our self-image. We're not worth it. Who do you think you are? And if you hear that enough times in school, oh, you're lazy, and oh, you're so-and-so, you'll never amount to anything. Well, that inner critic is always alive and well and constantly keeping you stuck, small, and of course safe. So the first step I would do if I was working with someone is we're going to fantasize. We're going to go back and let's look at what you would love to be doing or what you have been really good at. But because of the inner critic, you gave it up a long time ago. And a lot of people have a hard time going back because it's almost like our subconscious mind is listening in. Oh, it's an eavesdropper. And it's going, oh, here she goes again. Oh, she did that before. No, you're not doing that. It's almost like yelling at you. No, we're not doing that again. No, we did that last time. No, you're not doing that. You failed last time. And you see, when people incur failure after failure, they kind of give up. Like they actually form a self-image of a failure instead of one of success. And we've all been conditioned to always look for the wrong in everything. Everything's wrong. But what would happen if it was really, really right? We just need to flip the coin. So first thing is, let's get a definiteness of aim. Let's sort out, what do you really want? Oh, and include a juicy income. We have to include a juicy income because we're working with the universal laws, and the how really is none of our business. None of our business. Just get the program inside of you of what you would love to be doing.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think, like you said, it's having those good thoughts about yourself. As you said, like, people become conditioned because, they might have had negative experiences in the past or things didn't work out. So then they have that, that inner critic that kind of keeps them in that place that they don't feel they're good enough or they're worthy enough. And, like I think you said, trying to figure out, how much you want and how much you're worth. And that is probably like the first step, as you said, because I think a lot of people are held back, like as you mentioned, because they might not think they're good enough or they don't need they're not able to achieve a certain salary. And do you think as well, people try and do too many things at once to try and get to there, but then they're drilling too many holes rather than focusing on one?
That's a great point. I'm so glad you brought that up because the brain can get overwhelmed. We can get overwhelmed and then we shut down. And I feel like when you think about the seminars, like Tony Robbins' seminar, I love him. But if you go to a 4-day seminar, he gives you a lot of information that really inspires you, right? And day one might be on how to have better relationships. Day two will be maybe how to build a juicy bank account and a delicious future. Day three might be about you becoming a successful business owner. And day four might be about self-care. So I've discovered that many people go to these events and they're all pumped up, but inspiration has a very short shelf life. And it has a short life because you've overwhelmed the brain with, well, where do I go? What do I start at? Or should I go here? Should I go here? And in the end, it all kind of fades away. So what I've discovered is, and my mentor, Bob Proctor, taught me this, was if we're going to shift our programming, I call it shift the paradigm, then what we need to do 1 or 2 habits or ideas within the subconscious mind. We need to start to shift them one at a time. And when you do that, it becomes a new new place of operating. So for example, it will become an unconscious act. So for example, a good example will be people may find it difficult to get up they're not an early riser. They're a late starter during the day. And that's really a habit, right? If you hear enough times, oh, I'm not getting up early, I'm never getting up. Well, if you hear that enough times, you will condition your mind to only cause you to hit the snooze button all the time. But you could literally start to reprogram your mind with, I'm so happy and grateful now that I always wake up at 5 a.m. or I always get up before the alarm clock goes off at 5 a.m. If you say that enough times, you will wake up before the alarm goes off at 5 a.m. It's really that simple. It's really just telling yourself those. So I've discovered many people want to do big things in a big way. And I'm like, no, let's just break it down. Let's just break it down to small things in a big way. And what I mean by a big way is, well, auto-suggestion. Auto-suggestion is a suggestion to yourself, from yourself, using the power of your spoken word. And so I have discovered that many people, for example, are trying to change the outside. For example, I'm going to do 50 calls today. And I'm like, I wouldn't even do the 50. I would come back a bit, and let's look at changing your inner talk first. Before you go and do the 50 calls, we need to go. Because you could write out, I make 50 calls a day. I'm so happy and great, I make 50 calls a day. Oh, that feels so heavy. What would happen if you went and changed your inner talk first about making those calls? Then the magic would start to happen. You wouldn't have to write out the 50 calls. You wouldn't have to, because you've conditioned yourself that I love reaching out to people. I get to hear, see, and value people. Really selling is love made visible. I love just listening to people. It could be as simple as that. And you see how much more delicious it sounds to the subconscious mind, right?
Yeah, and I think, like you said, the approach you have, isn't it, in that kind of perspective on things, as you mentioned, that the alarm clock, and thinking, oh, I've got to do this, or I've got to, and that negative tone, especially I think like first thing in the morning, it's more of an impact. Whereas if you was like, I'm grateful for X, Y, Z, and it kind of sets you up, I think, for the day. I think like, whether that's negative or positive, or if it's negative, then it's probably going to attract more negative things rather day. Was if you said I'm grateful for this and X, Y, Z, it's going to put you in a more of a different direction. And as you said, like it's just habit forming. And
It is.
I found that starting new jobs at different times, it's like you have to adjust and shift to those patterns. But it's that that thought process of how you're looking at things, as you said.
Perception is everything. People have to realize they are 3 feet from gold, 3 feet from living a different life when they shift the way they look at things. There is goodness in everything, right? There is always, if something's going wrong, there's always a seed of an equivalent benefit within that adversity. We just have to go and look for it. And I've discovered that most people wake up. I'll tell you why people wake up with the same pattern of negative thinking is when you go to sleep, you don't go to sleep in a state of success. It's so important you go to sleep juiced up about your life and where you're going. You have a definiteness of purpose. You see, when you have a definiteness of purpose, you have a desire, and the desire is the fuel that keeps you going and helps you wake up early. And then when you wake up, often people wake up feeling lousy because their subconscious mind has run the show during the night. It's replaying back the mental junk. And that's why it's imperative when you wake up, you take control of your mind straight away. And I love, Adam, you're doing it with gratitude. Absolutely with gratitude. It's so important to master the mind, because the mind is like a monkey and it will do its own thing. But you can train the monkey. We've seen it physically. So you can train your own mind. And it's important for me, it's about every time when you wake up. In fact, I don't just do it in the morning. I might wake up in the middle of the night. Oh, I'm even going to the bathroom. I'm like, what are you thinking now? And is it good for you? Stop. What are you thinking now? Is it good for you? Refrain, right? To take that back into sleep again.
Yeah, I agree. I think, like you said, when you wake up and when you go to sleep, you want to be in a good mindset, as you said. And, I think about, like, as you said, sometimes if you have a negative force, it can kind of derail you. And it might be from other people, past experiences, or, negative beliefs we've had. And it's like you said, it's just redirecting those thoughts. And, is what you're thinking, benefiting you or bringing, value to your life, as you said. And do you think also, like people can have an impact on who people are, and where they're at? If they're surrounded by negative people and they want to get on, do you think that can have an impact why some people, probably do or don't do what they do? Because sometimes I think, like, if people are surrounded by probably successful people, then they're probably more likely to be successful, or if that makes sense, or have like role models around them.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's important that you are surrounded with success, like-minded people. But obviously, our family, we can't abandon them. And so I say visit, but don't stay too long. And I get to, for example, leave my mum. So my mum has never done any of this work, and she is in the habit, it's just a habit of constantly thinking about doom and gloom, constantly. Yet she lives in beautiful Australia. She has the best weather. She's very well taken care of. And yesterday I was speaking to her and she's like, oh, I'm getting old. Oh, I'm getting old. I can't stand it. And I really had to say to her, Mum, thoughts are real forces. The more you keep telling yourself that, you are going to literally, transition into your grave a lot sooner than you could imagine. And I said, I am going to redirect your thinking, because it's really a shift in looking at what's good in your life, Mum. And if you keep saying that, I tell you, your subconscious mind, it cannot actually work out what's good thoughts and what's not good thoughts. Once it's in there, and you feel lousy. So I said, you're getting emotionally involved in the wrong ideas, Mum. Stop it. And that's why you feel lousy all day and don't want to act. You don't want to do things because you keep telling yourself it's too late. I'm done. I'm cooked. I'm barbecued. It's over. And I said, just stop it. And you do it with so much emotion. And emotion is the language of the subconscious mind. So stop it, Mum. And so I really, every time I get on the call, I get to do this work on her, right? And it's a gift I give her, but it's also a gift I give myself to keep my mind safe and not getting emotionally involved in her dialogue. There is a shift when she gets on now. She's learning now. So that's lovely advice for people who are living with negative Nellies. You get to lead people. You get to lead them. You get to stop being a drifter and start leading people the way you want them to show up for you. And you do that by helping them shift their perspective. And I love what you do, Adam. It sounds like you're always looking for the good in things.
Oh,
So,
thank you. No, I really appreciate it. Thank you. And I think, like, as well as you said, some people get caught into those habits or that, those ways of thinking, and it's like you said, a matter of perspective, and your thoughts. You become those thoughts, and if you're thinking that way, you'll attract it. And as you said, it's those kind of healthy boundaries, isn't it? Trying to help people to shift their thought patterns into a different area, and I think that's what a lot of it is. It's as you said, your subconscious mind doesn't know, like the good from the bad. It will give you whatever you feed it, kind of thing. And I've been around people like that. I think that's life. You're going to be around people like that, and that's if they're choosing to be like that. But it's looking after yourself at the same time, but then trying to encourage people, as you said, to shift how they're thinking, because it's just ways of thinking, isn't it? And I've seen people who've got a lot of good going for them, but then they'll choose to look at, oh, well, this isn't good enough, and this isn't okay, and that's not okay. And it's like, well, if you take a step back and you look at what you have, I mean, there's a lot of other people out there who are less fortunate. So why not? I think some people struggle to do that, but then sometimes things might have to happen for them to change, or they might really need to, like you say, do the inner work to have a look at what their thinking patterns are. And I really appreciate what you said, and I always think there's people people have a choice, don't they, to look at the positive. And I'm quite an optimist, because I think when you've been in a certain place yourself, or you've been through certain things in your life, you think, well, I've shifted through that and I'm okay now. So you have that kind of perspective, and I think that's what helps me do what I do. Because I don't know if your sister, mentioned what happened to me in the past, or
no, share with me.
because basically I had an accident where I fell through a glass skylight. So I was 13 years old and I was messing around with friends. Yeah,
Wow.
and I was kind of didn't really care, wasn't really thinking. It was kind of like coming from my ego, and I was messing around on a roof with friends, and I fell through. And to cut a long story short, I had, PTSD, anxiety, depression, the full 12 yards for quite a period of time. But that, I think, I made a choice to, because I never had anxiety. I made a choice to understand what it was. I wanted to work through it, and push forward. I remember making that choice, and over time, push through it. Through therapy and hypnotherapy. My mum was actually doing. My mum's a therapist, but she was doing her hypnotherapy training. So I was almost like her guinea pig at the time. So, I got better over time and things like that. But I think it's a matter of perspective sometimes, isn't it? If you've been through tough times, it makes you. I think it makes you see life in a different way.
I think you had a paradigm shift can happen where you can do it yourself over time, or you will have an emotional shock. And most paradigm shifts happen when you of a negative nature, which sounds like you went through. Wow. And so what did your mum program you with? Do you remember, like, for you to turn this all around? Do you remember? Or what did you do as suggestions to yourself to shift this?
I think it was. I remember my mum doing. She did at times EMDR. I don't know if that's like a form of therapy, and then hypnotherapy. And I think I can't remember. It's a bit, it's quite a while ago, but I probably just managing the trauma and just letting go. But I remember telling her that I'll never let her down, and that I'll, I won't let myself down, and that I'll do better. That's what I can remember. I think I just made a choice, not to
Mm.
kind of get sidetracked, if that makes sense.
Yeah, decision. And that's it's funny, decision, there's so much power and potency in making a decision, because a decision can transport you to another life. And it's really burning your boats, putting a line in the sand, which sounds like you did, where you made a decision that you are choosing to create a life, an extraordinary life, rather than an interesting life. And the difference is, when you make a decision to live an interesting life, you will do things that are convenient. But if you make a decision to live an extraordinary life, you really are saying, I will do whatever it takes. I expect results, not excuses. And it sounds like, Adam, that's what you did, that you made that decision and never look back. And look at the work you're doing now, helping other people make a decision about their well-being, that each and every one of us, we think the problem is outside of us. We blame people, places, and things, circumstances. But we really are the only problem and our only solution, because it all just begins in the way we start to think differently. And then the outside world always reflects what our new thoughts are. It has to. It's law. It's universal law.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think, like you said, it's those sometimes events that kind of shape the way you think, as you said. And I think, like, what you faced as well, it's I think when you've had like such, a bad event happen, I think it gives you that almost, in the long term, resilience, and a path forward, doesn't it? Because I think at the time, whenever everything's happening, you can't really see a way out.
No,
And
that's true.
do you think people that you've worked with are kind of in that
Mhm.
place sometimes, that everything's happening and they can't see a
Mhm.
way out, and they're trying to find a way out to, move forward?
Right. I think it's always based on the programming, and programming is based on logic. And it's always the logic that we want the strategy, we want the next indicated step. But sometimes I feel to shift the logic, it does require great compassion and understanding with yourself. But you do also need someone like you, Adam, who's a mentor and a coach and a to help people move them along, because the paradigm, the programming is so cunning, it's so baffling, it's so powerful that it will keep us stuck in order to keep us safe. And so I feel for you also, Adam, you are not emotionally involved with that person's circumstances, so you have more of a drone view to help people create new images. It's really about what's holding them hostage is their use of their imagination. They're thinking the wrong pictures, and the wrong pictures are scaring themselves to death, where someone like you could help them imagine, just imagine another life. And if you suggest that long enough, the mind then starts to open up to possibilities instead of failure, continued failure. So, I mean, that your clients are very lucky to have you, because you're in a very responsible position to help create a new life for people just by helping them use their imagination more effectively.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And I think, like, as you said, it's like, as you mentioned, having that drone kind of perspective on that person, and those small kind of like suggestions over time then helps that person to move forward and things. And I think, like, what you said at the start is people being seen and noticed.
Mhm.
And I think sometimes, if you're unemployed, you kind of might feel ashamed, or you might not feel you're good enough. And I think connecting with someone and telling them, they are good enough and they can do X, Y,
Mhm.
Z, is like, a starter and things as well. And also, just comes to mind, with money and finances,
Mhm.
like what do you think, like, stops people from earning a certain amount of money? If that makes sense. Do you think it's like people's belief systems? Like, what's the root cause of it?
Mm.
Their
Mm.
environment? Do you think it's their parents? Can that be an
It's all
impact?
conditioning. It's always down to conditioning. And it's all about reevaluating those beliefs. And I feel like my dad grew up in London and he was part of the Great Depression. And so it was hard times during the Great Depression. Yet there were people that were millionaires during the Great Depression. So that comes down to their thoughts and the way their concept of themselves. So, growing up with my dad, it was always feast or famine. And it was often, and this is what happens, is that my dad's beliefs were put inside me and my sister, and also the environment. And I think many people have the false beliefs that some of them, they're just not true. But it takes time to recondition the mind with new beliefs around money. But it's not just about reconditioning the mind. We also have to, I believe, increase our worthiness, our deservability. And that really is about creating a new concept of ourselves that we deserve to be valued, right? Not just with words, but with financial remuneration. And I find many people are under earning because of the worthy piece. They don't believe they are worthy of money. And if only I've discovered how I've healed my relationship with money was to, first of all, look at those beliefs and ask myself, is this really true? Is money hard to make? That's what my dad put inside. Your father has to work really hard. And I looked and I went, well, no, that's not true, because there are many entrepreneurs out there, or many business owners or CEOs of companies that are working 4 days a week, 3 days a week, and have convinced themselves they are worth it. And so they charge an extraordinary amount of money for their services because they have just caught up with their magnificence. It's really that simple, which is just some new ideas that they put inside their mind over time, that eventually the subconscious mind says, oh, I can accept the one that people and companies love to give me large sums of money just for being me. Oh, I'll love that affirmation, that suggestion. I'll have that. Or it could be that, other things could be that success is easy, that, it's just new suggestions that really take over the old story about it. So the first thing I had to do is examine those beliefs. The second thing is I had to stop thinking that I was the one that was the only one that was bringing in the money. I took a quantum leap in my income when I made a decision to understand that God is the source of my supply. The money comes through my clients, it comes through my employer, it comes through my business, but the ultimate source is God. You may want to call it spirit, universe, if this is triggering you. But when I started to really look at the abundance in the universe and understand that there's someone, a higher power who's rotating this earth around the sun, who's causing the seasons, who has the tide go in and out, the sunrise, the sunset, I realized that I'm part of that universe, and that I have within me also God, like, because I am an image of God. When I think about it, I can create, I can forgive, I can have compassion. I've been given the same characteristics of a power greater than myself, which means that I am worthy of large sums of money. I just have to own my godhood, own it, that it is my birthright to be rich, happy, and successful. Now, it took a while to understand this, that God is not outside of me. He's not a guy on a cloud in a pink tutu, not at all. He's inside of me, and he wants me to succeed all the time. But there's always that dichotomy happening, because one part of me believes this, but then the inner critic, the mental junk, says, no, you got to work really hard and success is thing. So it takes a while to move to this side of the river, the bank on this side, rather than staying on this. And I'm going to tell you the way I did it, and I'll share with your audience, is I started to say affirmations about money that included God. And that's when the blocks started to clear up. So I started to say, no, when a bill was coming and I couldn't afford it, I would started to create a prosperity consciousness. And so I started to say, well, God is the source of my supply. He provides richly for me now. There's always a divine surplus. I mean, look at nature, look at a tree. It doesn't beg for water and sunshine. It doesn't beg for more leaves. It just happens. So I'm part of that. I would say that there's a good one. Whenever I circulate money. So I look at, I'm not spending money, I'm circulating it. I actually spend money. I spend it with cash now. I don't use credit cards, because I believe that money is God in action. It's a form of exchange that God has brought to earth for us to communicate with each other for services rendered. So what I love doing is, and your audience can borrow this, is that every time I go shopping, I look, money is a loyal, loving friend to me. So I treat it like my best friend without putting it on a pedestal. Remember, I'm here to use money and love people. Use money and love people. Don't put money on the pedestal and make it your higher power. Never. God is at the top, followed by, of course, yourself, and then your business, then everything else. But I started to use money when buying the groceries. So I would take out the money and I would thank the money for visiting. Oh, thanks for visiting. I'm going to release you now. Please go and bless many people as I put you back into circulation. Oh, and could you bring more friends next time? Thanks for being with me. And then I look at what my money has just bought me, all the groceries. And I just am constantly practicing the presence of God when I'm spending money. And I cannot believe how much more money is just flowing into my life, because it's a spiritual, it's gratitude. And gratitude, I believe, is the elixir for living, inviting even more abundance into your life. It really is the special source. And so I get to practice spending money with so much gratitude and thankfulness that it just keeps flowing back to me more and more. And so this is how I've shifted my belief system around money. It's as simple as that, ladies and gentlemen, in order to shift the beliefs. So I hope that helps your audience, Adam.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate you sharing that, Tanya. And I think, as you said, it's that relationship that you have with money and how you think about it. And as you said, I feel the same, like there's almost like an energy to, us, to everything in the world, and, to money. And if your relationship is positive, then you're going to reap more of that into your life, as you said, and being grateful for it, and that exchange, back and forth. And I think one of the tough things is people might sometimes, pay on card, as you said, you don't do card because you're not actually physically seeing it. You're just tapping your phone or you're tapping your card. Whereas, physically you can actually see that, and it's more of an exchange, more of a relationship. And, I think, like you said, what you think you're worth, ties into it as well. But I really appreciate, you sharing, your story with it. And I think more people, should do that and should follow, the way that you practice, your relationship with money. And also, like, do you have any like role models or anyone you look up to or anything like that?
Well, it would be the great thought leaders. So the man that changed my life, and I believe everyone will be gifted a mentor. If you're open to it, there will be some person that will come along that will literally save your life. And I just am so grateful that he's gone now, the late legendary Bob Proctor really shifted the trajectory of my life, really shifted it. And it doesn't have to be someone big like that. I love the thought leaders. I love Napoleon Hill's teachings. I love Joseph Murphy. These are the people that I take to bed every night. I'm going to share with you. I take these men to bed, many of them to bed. But I take them to bed because I'm going to sleep in a state of success. And so I'm going to sleep listening to their true wisdom that has made people very rich, happy, and successful. And just, wealthy within. In all aspects of your life, you experience wealthy without, on the outside. So Joseph Murphy, these are the thought leaders I really resonate with, that help me every day renew my mind to success and looking for the good and enjoying the deliciousness of this beautiful life we've all been given. What about you, Adam? Who do you look up to?
No, I really, really appreciate you sharing your role models and mentors. And I look up to, I like, is it Jason Silver? He's quite good. He's like a speaker. I like Tony Robbins. I've got a lot of, friends that I, network with, yourself, Tamara, your sister. I've got two friends who are ex-military, Brian and Greg. They've got a podcast, the Left and Greg podcast. And who else? I've got, my mind's gone blank. I like, Alan Sugar.
Okay, yeah,
in the UK. He started out from nothing. And I used to work for a guy who owns a hotel I used to work for called David Richards, and he owns a few hotels in Cornwall, but he's self-made, and he's big in the F1 world, the racing and rallying race.
Oh, I might see him. The Formula One's coming
Formula
to
One.
Vegas in November.
Oh, nice. Yeah, you never know. So yeah, he'll probably be there, but he's a big role model of mine, and like, trying to think who else I like. I quite like, Keanu Reeves and,
yes,
some actors who, because I think he's quite a nice person.
he is.
And I've heard good things about him. So there are a few in my list.
Yeah, and they're great to tap into. We are always talking to each other. We think we're not, but we are. And I've discovered, and Bob taught me this, that we're all part of this universal subconscious. And so for your audience, you can always ask these thought leaders for advice. What? They're gone. No, they're not. I say, and Bob taught me this, is get a piece of paper, put your problem on the piece of paper so it's out of you, right? I believe the reason why we continue to live the lives we're living is that we often are full of guilt and shame and worry, and it's the shame that binds us. So I feel we've got to get it out of us, get it on a piece of paper, first of all. And then there's the problem. And then Bob taught me that you then move around the room like a clock, and you pretend you're sitting at the 1 o'clock position and you're asking Bob, now, Bob, what would you do about this problem now? And if an idea comes, go and write it down. Then at the 3 o'clock position, you say, now, Napoleon, what would you say about this? And then you may ask, you may ask some of these thought leaders that are alive right now, tap into their subconscious mind and ask them. And then, of course, the biggest person I always ask, who's always right, is God or a power, infinite intelligence. What do you think about this? I think if we're not asking the right questions and we're not spending time enough sitting, being, and allowing the answers to come, because we've been conditioned now to keep busy all day long, right, with unimportant things, hoping social media will bring the question. But it's in the silence that you will hear the still small voices that are dying to be of service to you, dying to help you.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, as you said, it's that conditioning of being busy that people have always, for a lot of the time, being attuned to, being busy. But if you're always busy, then you don't have as much time to sit back with, your thoughts. And like you said, it's taking that time out to, really sit with yourself. And I think, that's a really good exercise, the one you mentioned, writing things down and putting it on paper. So, you physically see it. It kind of puts things into perspective.
It does. And then I burn it. Oh, have the burning ceremony, ladies and gentlemen, because once it's out of you, what I do is I've put it out of me. I've asked for advice. I also write out how I would love the situation to turn out, right? I'm so happy and grateful now that, and I write out really whatever I've written on one piece of paper, I write the complete opposite of exactly how I would like it to be. Then I go and burn it. I put on the gas and I watch it go up in flames without burning down anything. And I imagine myself as I'm burning it with the new results I want. It's symbolic. It really is. I'm just letting it all go, letting it go. And I'm amazed at how this problem just works itself out, often to what I've written it down to be. That's the crazy thing. These are the ideas I love to share with people to show just how powerful and potent you are and how you can turn any situation around when you start to reset your mind, change your perspective. There's one thing, that perception is your greatest gift. It's your ally. It can change your life, ladies and gentlemen, for everything. So
I love what I love what you said, and I think, like you said, it's quite powerful writing things down on paper, and seeing that, like you say, burning it and letting go of, if that's negative thoughts or beliefs, like whatever it is you put on there, getting rid of that. And that's a really good way to do that. And also, do you have, just to like round up, do you have any like favorite books at all?
well,
Like
well, it's going to be my lovers at night.
yeah.
I'm going to tell you right now. All these men I take to bed. I just love Napoleon Hill. I study this every morning. I do love Neville Goddard. Neville Goddard was a great thought leader that came around in the 1950s after Napoleon Hill, and he had his own take on how to create a different life, a different reality by the law of assumption. So Neville Goddard, at first it was hard to get into at first, but over time, listening to him on YouTube, I started to understand him more. I love Joseph Murphy. Joseph Murphy was actually mentored by Napoleon Hill. And then there's, of course, Bob Proctor, Earl Nightingale. So these would be the thought leaders that their wisdom never changes. It just comes out differently from each leader, but it really about how to master your mind, how to make the most of this gift that God is giving us. I no longer have jealousy, envy, or anything towards anyone. I'm just intrigued because they've got the same equipment as me. my God, they've got the same equipment, they're just using it differently, and I want to know how. That's it. They've got a different self-image to me, and they are just thinking differently. So I love talking to people, and instead of standing back and being envious, I'm like, tell me how you think. I'd love to know how you think every day, right? Because that's what they're just thinking, different thoughts. That's it. That's it.
Yeah, I
So,
agree, and I think that it's right, and I think that's what I think as well. And I think, like, if people are being envious or jealous or being negative in that way, I think you're pushing whatever you're jealous or envy about further away. Whereas if you accept them for what they're doing, or you accept their achievements, then I think, you kind of gravitate more towards that and allow it in. But like you said, being curious and interested in people and what makes them tick and how they're doing what they're doing. I feel the same with it, and I think that's how we should be, rather than the other way. And where can people find you on, like, social media or your website, that kind of thing? Where
I'm
can
on,
they find your services?
well, my sister got me onto Instagram. So we're on a mission with some people in the music industry. So I'm on Instagram, but I'm mainly on LinkedIn. I love being on LinkedIn, and TikTok. I make videos for TikTok as well. And, I'm all about being of service, and 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 sharing this information, with reels or with posts, because I believe we don't know how long we've got, but it's important that we start to, of course, reset our minds to success. So I'm on those social media platforms. I've got a website as well that I'm slightly shifting at the moment, but it's all under Tanya Pluckrose. That's it for the moment. And I even made a post today, Adam, on Instagram about blessing other people, because remember, I said this morning, when we bless others, right, really we're blessing ourselves. And I've discovered that when you give out good blessings, I love seeing someone more successful than me, because I wish them even more success. What you're really doing is sending it back to you. The miracle comes back to you when you start to bless everything, right? Bless your money, bless other people, wish them even more success. And I tell you, you will have a renewing of the mind when you do that. It will all come back to you.
Yeah, definitely. I agree, and I think, as you said, it comes back to, almost like a boomerang, because
It does.
you it's energy as well, isn't it? I believe, you putting that energy out there, it's gonna come back. Works both ways, as you said. And I wish you continued success in everything you're doing, and I'm
Thank
really,
you,
really
Adam.
grateful for you, to have this conversation with you, and to do a podcast with you. And I love your story, and I love, everything you're doing, and I hope it all goes well for you.
Thank you, Adam. And I wish you well as well. I just really, where you are now, that's just a stepping stone, darling, for what God has in store for you, because of He's preparing you for this big impact by you getting to understand yourself and others. And I just see you going from glory to glory, success to success. It is your birthright. And I know you understand that, and you're all about claiming it. So I wish you all the best, Adam, and thank you. Thank you. It's been an honor, pleasure, and privilege to be of service. I truly believe that I'm not really talking. This isn't about me. I'm just an instrument of God's peace, love, and glory, and He's using my voice today to heal and bless and inspire and motivate people into their best life, just by right now taking back your power and starting to learn how to use your mind effectively.
No, I love it, Tanya, and I'm really, really grateful, for everything, and really appreciate what you said, and it really means a lot. And I agree, and I think it's definitely, important to be of service and to help other people, as we are. And
Mhm.
there's definitely, higher power than what we see in front of us.
Very
But
much.
yeah, but I hope you have a good rest of your day, and thank you to
Thank
everyone for
you.
listening.
Go and enjoy your tea, my darling.
Yeah.
You came and did this as an act of service before your tummy. So go and enjoy yourself. Have a good evening, my love. And I
Oh,
look forward to
thank you.
getting to know you more.
Yeah, of
All right.
course. And you too. Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Cheers.